After only 4 fights in the UFC, Alex Pereira has become the new UFC middleweight champion, but that doesn't make his life any easier. The Brazilian is scheduled to face Israel Adesanya again on the 8th of April, and he's got a ringing endorsement from Marvin Vettori and many other fighters. Despite being a middleweight legend in the UFC, Israel Adesanya was shocked by Alex Pereira in round 5 of the UFC 281 main event. The New Zealander had been absolutely dominating the fight, and everyone knew it was only a matter of time before he gets the decision victory. Out of nowhere, though, the hard-hitting Brazilian, also nicknamed Poatan, which literally translates to hands of stone, cracked Adesanya with a brilliant combo. As you'd expect, it proved to be too much for Adesanya, with the first right hand freezing him against the cage, and Pereira took his chance, poured it on, and got the finish in the final round. This ended one of the most impressive reigns in the UFC from Israel Adesanya, who'd probably feel that he was somewhat unlucky with that combo. But that's the game, you know? It might be Adesanya's second ever loss in UFC, but Marvin Vettori believes that there's more to this loss than meets the eye. Vettori himself lost a decision fight to Adesanya in 2021. However, he saw something that not many others saw. Apparently, when it looked like Adesanya was in complete control, Vettori noticed that Pereira had him where he wanted, and that's why Marvin firmly believes that Pereira will defeat Adesanya again in April. He's also using history to back his opinion. After all, Pereira does have Adesanya's number. Pereira has only fought 4 times in the UFC so far, but he's not a newcomer on this combat scene. The Brazilian was a kickboxer before he turned to mixed martial arts, and during his kickboxing adventures, he racked up an impressive resume with 33 wins. Marvin Vettori knows his history, as he remembers that among those 33 wins, Pereira has 2 over Adesanya in 2016 and 2017, with the first one being a decision, and the second one was a fantastic KO win in 2017. Of course, this third win is just the cherry on top, because it also resulted in the belt, so there's definitely reason to believe that the last stylebender tends to struggle against his Brazilian counterpart. I mean, it's clear as daylight. While the fighting styles contrast with one another, and Pereira has more advantages to his style of fighting as compared to Adesanya, it's also a mental thing at this point. No matter how good you are, you always do feel that you need to prove yourself against fighters you've previously lost to, especially if you've never gotten a win against someone. For Adesanya, this could be the case. He's an elite fighter, so he'll probably never accept it, but deep down, he knows that losing 3 times to the same opponent in 3 meetings can't be good for your mental confidence, especially when 2 of those 3 fights resulted in knockouts. More than that, though, there are many other reasons why people in the know believe Pereira will win the next fight too. For instance, Pereira's experience in both kickboxing and MMA gives him a significant edge. Of course, when you couple that with the fact that Pereira has wins over Adesanya in both disciplines, you realize that he really didn't get lucky. But Adesanya has the experience too in both disciplines. The problem, though, is the fact that he's lost in both arts to Pereira, and Pereira is actually responsible for 42% of all losses that Adesanya has ever experienced. It might just be the reason why he couldn't finish the Brazilian off in November when they met, as he took a passive approach and wanted to take it to a decision, rather than capitalizing on the movement and his counters, which had initially allowed him to gain control of even the 5th round. That certainly wouldn't have happened if not for that mental block that Adesanya has against Pereira. But another reason often talked about is Pereira's finishing ability. Yeah, the Brazilian has a powerful striking game that helps him finish fights, something, as you must have picked up on too, that Adesanya clearly lacks. You're practically never in control unless you can finish fights. Adesanya, though, usually relies on his ability to get those decision wins, but it can be really hard to get them against opponents like Pereira. That's because he'll always have that knockout ability in him, and if he lands one, it wouldn't matter if it's 2 seconds to the whistle, or if it's just the first minute into the first round, he'll get the win with relative ease. That's why the likes of Vettori and many other fighters and analysts believe that Adesanya has a disadvantage. He might get a win through a decision against Pereira, but it'll be a risky approach because a single punch can end the game within seconds, as he experienced 2 of his losses to Poatan. But there are plenty of other reasons too. Pereira's dangerous submission and the strong ground game give him another edge. The best thing about Pereira is his willingness to take the opponent to the floor. It's been something that we can see from all his previous UFC fights too. He's not afraid to do that and has a dangerous submission game as well, which we can pick up on from his previous fighting endeavors. Not to mention, if I were Adesanya, I'd be keeping a lookout for a flying knee too, because that was what made Pereira's debut back in the UFC so special. Adesanya, on the other hand, can struggle against certain opponents. He's comfortable taking the game long and even landing a potential knockout if he gets the chance, but his fighting style is more suited to long, drawn-out battles. Unfortunately for Israel, Pereira's known for his excellent conditioning and stamina too. That's partially the reason he managed to stay in the fight for that long in November. Any other player and he would have folded. Pereira, though, knew he had a chance and he only needed one good punch to get him in the game. His patience paid off as he finally got a shot at it, real late, but he still got it. And that was enough to turn the game and the middleweight division on its head. Best of all though, Poatan has also revealed that he'll do it all over again. There were some critics that pointed out how Pereira can't land takedowns, but he immediately corrected them. He told ESPN that these are only the people who have never grappled with him, and anyone who has done it with him in training, he was surprised because they didn't know initially just how good he is at grappling, and added that no one was able to put Israel down with a takedown. I took him down, so what's going on? That he did. So it's great to see that the new middleweight champion is also confident in his ability to do it all over again. Most fighters who get fast-tracked into the UFC don't necessarily perform well. It's obvious that Pereira isn't your regular fighter though. He was given an opportunity that he created. It wasn't handed down to him. He earned it with that devastating knockout back in 2017 against Adesanya, and he's done it once again at the biggest stage. It wasn't easy either, because anyone who left after only watching the first round in November 2022 would bet their house on Adesanya to win. That's the thing though. UFC is very unpredictable, and the likes of Pereira and Adesanya represent the best of it. That's all I have on Pereira Adesanya's fight in UFC 287. See you next time.